Welcome to Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt of the Marquardt Law Firm at marquardtlawfirm.com.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt, on the radio, on podcasts, on Facebook Live, and on YouTube. Also, talklawradio.com. You can go search talklawradio.com for different topics and episodes there as well. Before the break, I was letting you know about our topic today is talk about shareholder meetings and the legal requirement for corporations to have shareholder meetings, and a special shareholder meeting that I went to, Berkshire Hathaway's shareholder meeting in Omaha. If you have an opinion about Berkshire Hathaway, you don't have to agree with me. You just have to be nice. I'll give you this book. I'll send it through the internet. This book is my dad's copy. It's called Poor Charlie's Almanac. Charlie Munger passed away this past year, God rest his soul, but his legacy lives on through his book here. And then I want to talk about the specific Texas law that requires shareholder meetings, and then I'll talk about investor-owned utilities because Berkshire Hathaway Energy owns some utilities, and there's unique issues there for that company. And if you're a shareholder, then it's an issue for you. And if you use utilities to keep the lights on and to power the radio station and to power your electric vehicle or whatever you have, this is an issue that you need to be aware of. Okay, I just want to remind you that you can call the show at 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867 on Saturday, May 11th at around 11:15, I guess it is now. Tell me what you think of Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, or what you think of investor-owned utility companies. Or if you have a question about your own shareholder meeting, I'll try and answer your question if I can. Or you can text Todd, that's me, at 210-538-4770, 210-538-4770. Make a comment about something that I just mentioned, and I'll send you this book, Poor Charlie's Almanac. Okay, the Texas law on shareholder meetings is from the Texas Business Organizations Code, subchapter H, section 21.351. An annual meeting of the shareholders of a corporation shall be held at a time that is stated in or set in accordance with the corporation's bylaws. And if they don't have a meeting, on the application of a shareholder who has previously submitted a written request to the corporation that an annual meeting be held, a court in the county, which the principal executive office of the corporation is located, may order a meeting to be held. If the annual meeting is not held or written consent instead of the annual meeting is not executed within any 13-month period, unless the meeting is not required to be held, there's always an exception to the law. So that's the law in Texas. Let me move on to what I learned about investor-owned utilities. I learned from the meeting about, Warren Buffett also sends out a letter before the meeting that Berkshire Hathaway Energy owns and operates utilities serving 11 states across the United States, including PacifiCorp, which is in the western U.S., Mid-American Energy in Iowa, and NV Energy in Nevada. So why might utilities be a good investment for, any investor, Warren Buffett or Berkshire Hathaway, as a company that likes to invest in different things? Well, because energy is in high demand. the population's growing, and so there's more people turning the lights on, using TVs and vacuum cleaners and electric vehicles. Also, data centers, like Amazon and Google and Rackspace and GoDaddy and lots of others, I'm sure. Plus, artificial intelligence infrastructure uses a lot of energy to do calculations and whatever. I'm not a computer guy. I don't know exactly how all of that works. I just know I've heard in the news that it takes an incredible amount of energy. Also, mining Bitcoin, I have heard, takes an incredible amount of energy. So, if more energy is being consumed, us as consumers, we have to pay a fee for that, and it has to go to somebody. And some utilities are privately owned, some are publicly owned, and some are investor owned. The energy utilities run by Berkshire, unlike other companies in the portfolio, have complete monopolies over their service territory. And so that's allowed by law. That's by design. States and municipalities will partner up with the company to run the utility, and essentially that there's only one company that does that. Now, I know in other markets there's privately held utilities. I don't know much about that because I've been focusing on investor-owned utilities. That's what I'm going to be talking about today. And so the investor-owned utility company will have a franchise agreement with the state or municipality. Buffett calls these compacts. A compact is an agreement. It's a state-sanctioned monopoly. And so part of the agreement there is that the privately held company or investor-owned company would spend money on infrastructure. And so Warren Buffett, in the meeting, the shareholder meeting this year, said these expenses require investors, to make a fair exchange to earn a reasonable return. He said, we will do it at a rate of return that is not designed to make us rich or anything like that. It's a sensible rate of return. But we won't do it if we think we're not going to get any return. And this is where we get into the details of, is this a risky business? And what should you know about it as a consumer? What should you know about it as an investor? There's a potential for unlimited liability. You remember the fire out in California that was caused by some power lines from a utility company? Well, the state of California basically said, it's not our fault, it's the utility company's fault, and they should pay for all of your damages. And hopefully there's insurance that pays for some of that, but some of these companies will go bankrupt because they can't afford to pay all of the liability. Part of that is inverse condemnation, which is essentially strict liability that says we don't care if you were negligent or not. The fire happened because of the utility poles or wires or whatever, and so you have to pay. Well, what makes these wildfire events more expensive now is because the cost of materials has gone up, the cost of labor has gone up, which essentially inflation has inflated everything. You know that when you're buying your car or your house or your eggs or your groceries, you already know that inflation is going up, but I'm just letting you know that it also causes damages to go up when things get burnt down. But Warren Buffett also said Berkshire would not knowingly throw good money after bad. So he's sort of warning the industry that if there's not a solution to stop the unlimited liability, to sort of rein it in and allow these investor-owned utilities to limit some of their liability, that maybe he won't get into this business at all. And then who would do it? So Warren Buffett said that Berkshire Hathaway Energy is looking for legislative and regulatory reform. He said that the Utah Senate Bill 224 was the gold standard, and some of the features that would help an investor-owned utility company limit their liability would be supplemental wildfire coverage fund and caps on non-economic damages. Non-economic damages are pain and suffering, whereas economic damages would be what you lost. And if you died, then it would be lost earnings. If your house burnt down, it would be the cost of the house. And Greg Abel, who's vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, is the chairman of the energy company, Berkshire Hathaway Energy. He said the problem is that there's a risk of regulatory compacts not being respected. So first, they want to have a compact, and second, they want the government to honor their part of the bargain, to honor the compact. I guess there was some thinking that because of some of the wildfires around the country that were held to have been caused by other power companies, utilities, thought was that those governments didn't honor their part of the bargain. Here's an example. You remember PG&E? Well, that was the company made famous by the movie Erin Brockovich with Julia Roberts. Remember, she was the paralegal that did all the research that found that PG&E knew that they were contaminating the water that the town was drinking. Well, PG&E has also been held responsible for some wildfires. Also, they were responsible for the San Bruno gas explosion. In 2016, a San Francisco jury found PG&E, that's Pacific Gas and Electric, guilty of violating pipeline safety laws in connection with this explosion. That's where a 30-inch natural gas pipeline ruptured and released large amounts of gas, killing 8 people and destroying 38 homes in the Crestmore neighborhood. Also, PG&E was held responsible for the Camp Fire in Paradise, California, which began on November 8, 2018. The fire started when a pine tree fell into a PG&E distribution line, which was one of 2 trees that had been marked for removal. So there are some things that utility companies can do to limit their liability by reducing the vegetation around power poles or lines or other infrastructure that might cause fires. Okay. Then there was PacifiCorp. In 2023, a jury found PacifiCorp, Oregon's second largest electric utility, liable for the 2020 Labor Day fires in Oregon. But we're going to have to take a break. So I just want to remind you that we've been talking about shareholder meetings, and specifically the 2024 Berkshire Hathaway shareholder meeting in Omaha, which I got to attend. Bought the shirt. Lexi over here off camera has a bandana, and I'll tell you more all about it after this break. Stay with me.
This has been Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt, brought to you by the Marquardt Law Firm. You can learn more at marquardtlawfirm.com. And be sure to listen to the full Talk Law Radio show Saturday mornings at 11 on 9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Each week, attorney Todd Marquardt talks about the law. His mission with the Talk Law radio show and podcast is to help you discover your legal issue blind spots. In the beginning, God had one law. Don't eat from the fruit of that tree. Then came the 10 Commandments. Now we have federal, state, and municipal lawmakers that won't stop creating new laws. Laws that might impact you without you knowing it. Listen to the show and drop a line on Facebook or email host@talklawradio.com and let the host know what you think of the show, the topics you want to hear, and whether you want to be a guest.